Your home's first impression matters. Today we're fixing the most overlooked space, the entryway. After that, we're going to touch on the living room. In this video, we're going to cover decluttering, optimizing your flow, and creating a cohesive look. If this is something that you would like to do in your home as you're watching this video, we'll link in the show notes a resource that is free for you that you can use as a checklist and walk through these spaces together. Let's talk about the entryway. The biggest issue that most people have is clutter. It usually is a smaller space in most homes. You feel dark and cramped, and it ends up all your kids' shoes and coats, and I know I have the same issue. I think the number one way obviously is through storage. Now, if we don't have a closet or the space to add a cabinet and create storage, best thing to do is use the wall. Let's use wall hooks and baskets on the wall. You can put hats and gloves, hang your shoe storage so that it's not just on the floor. You're able to do a storage bench so that you can put storage into the bench but then still use it functionally to sit and put your shoes on. Those are my favorite ways to tackle a small cluttered entryway. Another great tip for an entryway, especially when it's small and dark, is adding mirrors and just upping the lighting. Whether you can add a light fixture, just put in a brighter bulb, or if you do have a little bit of natural light, adding the mirror so that you can get the reflection of that natural light in there. Keep the space bright and neutral. We don't want anything too dark. It's already feeling cramped and cluttered with all of your stuff. Now, if you have a larger space where you're able to add an armoire or other larger furniture pieces to create that storage, do that. You won't regret it. Spend the money on a nice piece that is both beautiful and functional. This really sets the tone when people walk in your home. It allows there to not be people tripping over shoes when they're walking in. It just allows people to feel at ease when they walk in, right? If you walk into a space that's nicely organized and decorated, not fluffy, fancy, like stiff, but just well thought out, it's going to create a level of comfort where people automatically feel like, oh, this is such a beautiful home. I'm so excited to spend my time here. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy. Get a good console table to have as a drop zone for keys or anything that people need to leave, their purses when they walk in the door. Have a spot for them to put their shoes and their boots. Again, if we're talking about a larger space, especially in a larger home where potentially you have another mudroom, then you can totally just go off of visual and what your guest needs in this space. If this is your mudroom and your drop zone, then make sure you have those larger furniture pieces so that you can hide the clutter when you have guests come over. Another solution I absolutely love, going back now to the darker, smaller spaces, is adding mirrors and lighting, brightening up the space. Keep those colors light and bright. You can play with color if you love color, do what feels good to you, but typically I would go a little more neutral for a small entry space, just because that's not the place where we want people to all of a sudden feel closed in and feel like they want to back out. You want it to be the place where they walk in, it ushers them to come further into the home. If you have a large entryway, it's a great place to play with something fun like wallpaper or fun colors and just really let your personality shine. We do want to allow people to know who you are from the second that they walk up to your front door. Just that place where we get to be individual. This is our home. We get to show who we are and allow people into our lives. So don't feel afraid to play with that in your entryway. Another way that we just create a comfort and a sense of ease and just a well-designed space in our entryway is layering pieces. Like if we're able to fit a console table in there, make sure you have a table lamp, have some books, something that represents you and your family. You can have family photos in the entryway. Really want to not overlook the entryway when it comes to design. Like I said earlier with like the paint colors and letting your personality come through, we do want to set the tone for who we are and what our friends will get to experience when they walk into our homes. And it's such a fun place to show our personalities and just right off the bat get them warmed up to the experience they're gonna have while they're in our home. So as we move past the entryway and we start to walk into usually what is the living room, most homes operate this way. If yours doesn't, that's okay. We'll just talk about the living room in general. But the biggest issue that I see is misplaced furniture or ill use of furniture. You never want to block the flow. Unfortunately, sometimes that means having smaller furniture if you have a smaller space, and I know people really want to like seat as many people as possible or just have the most comfortable space as possible. But when you have very large furniture in a small space and you're blocking entryway, you're blocking the flow, while you can potentially seat more people, it's actually going to make you feel very uncomfortable in that space. It's going to feel cramped. It's going to feel tight. There's not going to be the sense of breathability that you would if you had lighter furniture, smaller furniture, and a through walkway where you're able to allow guests to come in and not be hustling around the furniture or bumping into the furniture. The next thing that I would say is if you have a larger space, then we kind of need to do the opposite. You need to get furniture that's to the scale of your space. That does mean more money usually, so there's pros and cons, right, of larger and smaller spaces, smaller furniture, smaller budget. If you have a larger space, you really need to have larger furniture. Last thing that you want to do is have this big beautiful living room and this like teeny tiny little pieces of furniture don't match the scale of the living space. This is great when you have the ability to have larger furniture because then you do really get that sense of like, come in, lay on the couch, rest, relax, fall into a nice big sectional and enjoy your time with us. That can still be portrayed in a small space using a layering of pillows and textures to allow the space to feel warm and comfortable even though the furniture itself isn't bigger. But you still need to do that step as well in a larger space with larger furniture. You definitely don't want to skip the layering of texture and furniture. Now, at Devin Rose Interiors, that's what we specialize in. I don't do a home that's ultra modern. It's not my style. As you can see behind me, this is my home. I have lots of textures, lots of different elements that I like to layer in. I love different wood tones of pillows and blankets, and you're gonna see all of that in my home. And I hope that when my friends come in, that they really feel like they can just plop down on the couch and relax and be themselves. And that's the environment that I want to create for my friends, for my family, anybody that comes to spend time with us. Now, I'm sure that's the environment that you want to create too. If you feel like you're needing more help, like this is really exciting and you kind of have some first steps and first things to think about, but you want to take it deeper, like I mentioned earlier, in the show notes, we will have the link to Home Audit, and you can go through that and go through it in your own home and see what's working. Find the bottlenecks in your home. Let's fix them together. I also want to just let you know that this is part 1 of a 3-part series, so the next one will be tackling the kitchen, so stay around for next week's video on the kitchen. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Bless you.